Things are taking a while because the mouse is not working properly. It's very frustrating. I'm just pausing the music. I'm not dealing with that. The mouse is acting weird. There's a gnat in here. It's fun to chat here. There we go. If you see me dodging something, it's a gnat. Remember, gnats and 1 and 2-dimensional creatures reflect 1 and 2-dimensional realities. 2-dimensional creatures would be a hornet, us versus them. 1-dimensional are like flies. Bees kind of represent almost 3-dimensional because of how well they work and how the buzz that they makes a sort of a force field around them, and they can move through space. Sort of how these scientists wish they could move through the heavens. But anyway, that's why bee and the word of Elohim are the same word, Deborah. So what was I getting at right here? Bees, flies, 1-dimensional. Yeah, the more 1-dimensional they are, the more they have to do with death. Mosquitoes, they suck blood, 1-dimensional. Flies, 1-dimensional. Bees might actually be still 2nd-dimensional, but really close to 3rd-dimensional, because they still have stingers and stuff like that. But then there's different kinds. There's some that don't have stingers. So it's very interesting. The different varieties are out there. They're meant to teach you something. So let me get back on track here. Supposed to be, isn't it interesting? I just noticed this. That remember how I said the 45 thing in the 4th chapter and the 5th chapter? Well, I just went over the 4th chapter and Cain and everything. And then I realized after, I'm like, oh, that's part 4 of the Ecclesiasticus ones. And I'm going to go over the 5th one right now. I was able to do Cain in 1 hour, right? The line of Cain. So now the 5th episode, the 5th part, is going to be chapter 5. It's really interesting. Anyway. I mean, the rate I was going was about 1 an hour. The last one went through 3 and 4 in 1. No. Yeah, I did 3 in 1 episode too. That's weird. All right. So this is the book of the genealogy of Adam. In the day that Elohim created man, he made him in the likeness of Elohim. You see how Cain's line starts off with a story of murdering their own brothers. I just realized I didn't turn the lights on. It looks kind of fine. I'll just leave the lights off. It's like a darker contrast with the lights off. So in the day that Elohim created man, he made him in the likeness of Elohim, male and female. He created them, and he blessed them and called their name Adam. In the day they were created. So it's establishing that the genealogy they're about to say carries on the tradition of Adam. And the language. Cain probably didn't go along with any of that. So that was the contrast, and that's why they start the genealogy of Seth from Adam. Let's see. The ones that even got written down were probably because they had that Semitic thought before the guy named Shem even existed. The will existed before the physical. So that's why the skulls don't actually ultimately determine anything. They only determine struggles or benefits. Each one has its struggle and each one has its benefit. Okay. And Adam lived 130 years. See, in 130 years, you can get all those lines of Cain, and then they just all live a very long time. Maybe, yeah. Most of them could have been born really fast in 130 years. And brought forth a son in his own likeness after his image, and called his name Sheth. So that's why when it says his own likeness and his own image, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's talking about the language and the tradition. And after he brought forth Sheth, the days of Adam were 800 years. He brought forth sons and daughters, so other people were born from Adam. So then there's probably classes, Adamites, and all these different people. Adamites, Shethites, Mahalalites, Enochites, Lamachites. It's just not labeled like that because those kind of thoughts didn't come till after, or they weren't very solidified till after the flood. Um, and Sheth lived 105 years and brought forth Enosh. So Sheth means appointed, and Enosh means mortality. So it's talking about ideologies. So Sheth is appointed. It's when people realize they're appointed for something now, that they're in this fallen state. Um, and Enosh is probably when people realized they're getting older, or maybe somebody realized that when they cut themselves on something or they harm themselves on something, it's a shadow of what's to come. Canaanite, or the line of Cain, probably didn't believe they're actually going to die, so they weren't even numbering their years. And they brought forth Enosh, or they probably had different ways for different nations. They're part of so many nations that they themselves didn't have their own language or write down their own stuff. They were just integrated into other nations. They never had, they were like purposeless. They only had their purpose through other people. The spirit of Cain. So it describes behavior. A genetic thing might make you more inclined, but it's not doesn't determine your choice. The modern science would actually say it does. Chemicals determine choices. So I'm saying something that's actually the science that if anybody wanted to call something eugenics or race or whatever, it's like no, the modern science actually is, not me. I'm just saying that the physical results came from spiritual things, and then their children have to deal with the mistakes that their ancestors made. That's something that's proven. Almost every culture and race believes that. Let's see. So let me go over Sheth then. All right. I don't think I went over Adam and Eve, did I? Because Adam has to do about beginnings. Uh, Damam means to be still. So Adam was probably someone who always can control himself. Because if you're the first man, then what you don't have to fear anything except the Most High. Um, so he's probably the center of power until he died. He lived like 900 years, so it's a long time. All right, here it says it denotes Damama denotes calmness. Duma denotes silenced person. So he was probably calm and silent. He only said what was important. He knew that everything was created by words, and he named everything. So Adam was probably silent, very silent person because he only said what mattered. So these are all psychological traits. And this is what was preserved through people who knew what its value was. Dumia, silence of waiting. Dumam, silence of inertia or inactivity. Dhamma describes making a still image. Remember, it comes from soil is the same thing because it means from soil. Demut, Dimion means likeness. Dhamma means to stop, halt, or arrest. When someone says "damn you," it literally means they want to stop you. Dhamma, a dam. It stops, halts, or arrests water. Domai, meaning a halting. So the Anno Domini or whatever, it's the year of our Lord. It's like, no, it's the year of our Adam. Who is their Adam? That's what you got to ask yourself. Because it's not Messiah. Messiah is not their Adam. Um, means a halting, meaning domen denotes refuse, and madmana, a manure pit. I mean, what does man create by eating food? Um, and he uses things, and he has to make a refuse pit, burn things. That's why Ish and Esh are probably similar, because man makes fire. Um, product from soil, Adama. I remember manure. It's soil. It's man and soil. So we're supposed to be humble because we come from the same thing. We're turning up with a shovel. Denotes arable soil, red clay earth, Adama. So red because the blood rushes to the skin. So light skinned. The sun is what darkens the skin. So where people decide to live is what darkened their ancestors' skin or lightened them. It's a proven fact. Lightness made from soil. Soil nurtures. Soil is the base for everything to build on. It's very, very interesting. Red is the first color a baby learns to see. Remember, red is the weakest. That's all this television and everything is in the red and communication. Red or ruddy is indeed the color of rudiment. Verb, color of rudiment. What is rudiment? Adam or Adam means to be red. Adam means red. Odem denotes a ruddy gem. Our blood is red. Second dimension, just under the soil. Adamai means red or ruddy. To admonish someone will make them embarrassed. It'll turn them red. Can't make this up. And so, what is it? David was red and ruddy. It's supposed to be like he's representing a renewal of Adam because Messiah was supposed to be the new Adam. So David is supposed to be a reflection of Messiah. This reflection of Adam, or returning Adam to his original state. Dam means blood also. When you see a lot of blood, you say, damn. The seat of life, whose circulatory system always sits inside an organic body, isolated from the world at large. When a river turns to blood, it's not so much assumes the color and thickness of blood, but becomes isolated from the greater hydrological cycle. So, turning the Nile into blood was a rebuke of Egypt deifying the Nile, basically. Instead of worshiping who provides everything, they worship the provision instead. That's what Cain did. Produce. The life that is seated in the blood is therefore primarily an issue of waste management. Without it, the organism pollutes and dies. Okay. Very, very interesting. And Eve, this is why women shouldn't be people who take lives, like in army or um, police, because their original state is Eve, Ava, life giver, and Adam has to do with taking the man has to do with taking life and protecting in that way. Um, it corrupts women because women are supposed to give life. It's just a natural for. It's like plants. Plants need water. Can't give plants something that's not water. No matter how much you think it empowers the other thing that's not water. Uh, okay, here's for Heya, meaning to live or have life. So this is living. Hey means living in general. So hey is just acknowledging existence. Hey. Hey means lively. Hey, hey, do. Hey means life or living thing, vibrant community. Ham means livings, but describes a whole palette of activities of living beings engages what they engage in. One's making a living. Ham. Let's see. M. M means mother. Yeah, so mom is actually probably the perfect term. Like Emma is just mother. So Amma is mother. See, Amma, so just mom. But mother itself, Hebraized means city of death. Matir. Adibu means okay. Hava means to cluster up in order to be viable. Ya hava. You understand? Ya clusters up something in order to be viable. That's the Rosh. That's Messiah. That's why I say Yahovah. People are going to argue with me if they want. Say, no, this is the way it is. No. I say, it has the B sound in there for the word of God. Hava is the Rosh. Va means to lay out in order to live collectively. This is the way, walk in it. You'll hear a voice. It describes investing one's personal sovereignty into a living collective like a symbiote. I think the website misspelled that. It's mostly translated as to prostrate, which is to submit oneself wholly and bodily to a collective or to the leader of that collective. Why I would translate like diving into. That's what it sounds like. Or to lay out. You know what it would actually be? It would be like when Elijah laid on top of the boy that was dead 3 times, like the first, second, and third uh dimension, and then he prayed and the boy sneezed 7 times. That's the 7 days of creation, and he was alive again. But he prostrated himself on to line up. It was a dimensional thing that he did. It's what the Most High gave him to do. Um, so that's what it's saying. It's not like prostrating necessarily as a subject, but getting in a position to literally align all the it's to synchronize life basically. That's what it'd be. So saying Yehovah is very procreative. They don't want you pronouncing it right, it seems. Um, Ava means declaration. Ahava meaning brotherhood. Hava describes a tent village, most rudimentary collective that operates as a living symbiotic whole. So calling him Yahovah is calling him the is or the will from which proceeded livelihood itself, which is held together by the word. Literally, societies are held together by communication. And see, then you get like these people in history that are supposed to be these wise philosophers that had all these arguments with each other. It's like, yeah, the only ones that got written down were these clowns, just like the ones on podcasts today. It was never somebody who. That's what I want to know. Who's giving all this stuff? Is it just rabbinical people giving it to people who know the language? Is that just who it is? I don't know, because I don't. People need to give me the link or something, because or just tell me who it is, because I don't hear people talking about this stuff. I mean, it's proving without a doubt Scripture is real and uncorruptible, and it's the language of Adam. It's a tradition of language and communication that goes all the way back to Adam. It is the knowledge of how powerful words are and how they can manifest. That's why the jock tonight tells you sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never hurt me. It's like, yeah, but for some reason you get really, really mad when someone calls you small or short or that something's out of your reach. It makes them murderous. Oh, what happened to words and sticks and stones can't? Okay. Don't judge a book by its cover, even if it says, I'm going to kill you on it. Like the cover of the book says, I'm going to kill you. You're not supposed to judge a book by its cover. Okay, whatever. The book can have an arm sticking out of it with a knife, but I'm just not supposed to. As I'm gonna stop naming this person, but as somebody would say, they basically tell you just roll over and die. Like, yeah, they tell you just roll over, and then it's like, what is this? What is this mentality? It's anyway. It's Cain. Okay. That's why it's all about going to Canaan's land. That's the promised land. Why? Because Cain is wicked. He can't hold on to it. When he naturally gets judged by the Most High, not by rebels, then the meek shall inherit the earth. It's like, it's so simple. It's always been there. It's been there at least in this degree, or almost in this degree, for 2,000 years. And these people are like, got these pastors drawing things on whiteboards and saying, "See, here's a graph, and I'm gonna do the whole life of David, and it's gonna make a crown on this point graph that I'm making." It's like, oh, jeez. Why are they doing pictures? That's Egyptian. They're doing Egyptian writing pictures. I'm doing the actual, just the alphabet of Abraham is ridiculously beneficial. And then the more I get into it, and I start understanding it through pronunciation, thanks to David, um, I'll get better at it. But even in the most base standard version of it, it shows you so much. But people who don't have the faith really can't believe it though. So then it's like, see, if you don't have the faith, then there's no power in it anyway. And faith and trust aren't the same thing either. If you just trust it because it keeps working, that's not the same. That's the Kabbalists. They trust it because it keeps working. They think it came from some ancient magician or something. I don't know. But so that's what Eve is. And then Eden. Why didn't I go over this? I forgot to go over this. I might have to do 2 parts for Adam, because I forgot to go over Eden and the 4 rivers. Because Eden is I basically drew it. I don't know where it's at, but I think Eden is was in the Mediterranean, what is now the Mediterranean Sea. After the flood, it's gone. It's not there anymore. The whole searching for Eden is just a psychological metaphor. So Eden has to do with free exchange of broadly diverse information, services, and goods. So Eden stands for everybody has the same language, understands it, and doesn't use it for personal gain, it's a free and open society under Elohim, so they're not lawless. Everybody's morals are known and agreed upon, which is where wealth comes from in the modern understanding of the economy. No, I don't think in the modern understanding. Eden, Edna, and Ma'adan mean delight, finery, or luxury. Aden means delightful or luxurious. Adan means luxury or delight. So basically, it's also telling you that um, even though it actually happened to Adam and Eve, it's telling you that being in luxury when everything's going right for you all the time, it doesn't actually test you. You can't actually truly love God if everything's just always going fine. That's the whole lesson in Job. Job had all this stuff, but he didn't have the test yet. He had all this luxury and learned a bunch of stuff. I hadn't gone through the test yet, so it's like, yeah, that's just how it works. So that's what it's showing there, even though Eden was an actual place. That's why so much of luxury surrounds the Mediterranean, because it's like the energy's still there. And I think possibly the land of Israel is the closest to wherever it was. So that's why it's the best of the lands over there, and that's why everybody fights for it. It's not only spiritual, but it's physical reasons, material reasons. Um, so there's 4 rivers in Eden. Uh, the Pishon, like fission, means shaking the region. And this is taking it from different languages because of where they perceive the river used to flow. From Sanskrit noun sim, meaning region, so simulate, and verb do, meaning shake or tremble. So shake or tremble the region. So it's probably a river that when it rained a lot north of it, there would be such a violent flow of the water that it would shake the ground. But then from Hebrew, it can mean great diffusion. Pasas, to break apart or scatter. So it's theorized that this river was a large river coming out of the Mediterranean, out of Eden, and going through India, because you know how the rivers part in India like that. And it could have started from where the Nile. Well, no, never mind. But scatter and break apart, pasas. Um, let's see here. So pasas means to break apart or scatter. So the biform pus. Interesting, because pus is usually in little balls on your skin. It's coming out of your pores. So it literally describes the behavior of pus. And it can also mean an overflowing. Um, push, literally Push, push appears to have the same meaning, means to scatter. So when you push somebody, when you're pushing something, can't make this up. Gotta drink some water or something. To scatter, pasha means to tear in pieces. That was the name of the peasant in Emperor's New Groove that he had to get help from. His name was Pacha. Very, very interesting stuff. All right. And it says a Hebrewized form of the Sanskrit name for Indus, namely Sindhu, Pishon, Sindhu, Pasas. Yeah, Sindhu. Remember, Sindhu is where you is sin and shin. So the Shinzo, mostly Asiatic, sin is all the Indians, Hindus at least. Um, Word Sindhu comes from sim, meaning region, and du, meaning to shake or tremble. That's where you get the Kundalini spirit stuff. It's Hindu mysticism mixed into Christianity. It's the snake going up the spine. These things are thousands of years old. I mean, they're in videos everywhere. Just look up the Kundalini. But vision is similar. Where you get fission from. Uh, so the next one here is the Gaihun. Oh, where they say that river went. I really hope that I looked at that. Let's see. Location somewhere around the modern rivers. The Pishon flows in the land of Havila. That's a languishing village. Probably because it keeps getting flooded. Let's see. Which is according to Genesis 25:18, somewhere between Egypt and Assyria, which may just as well denote the Indus River. Yeah. So languishing village. A lot of people are really skinny in India. And there are floodings that happen there too. Um, so now, oops, I think I read the wrong thing. Or did I? Oh yeah, I did. Oh, okay. Sorry. So the Gaihon, let's see. This river, it said, flows around the whole land of Kush. So it since the Gaihon was a spring in Jerusalem, you can say that out of this part of the Mediterranean Sea right next to Israel, where Eden possibly was, this river came out, flowed where the Jordan did, all the way around either Saudi Arabia or it's the Nile and the Jordan together. The Nile and the south part of the Jordan combined was probably this river Gaihon going all the way around the land of Cush. So it would go around where that eyeball is in Africa, that part that looks like an eye. It would go down around that eye and then out into the ocean, all around the land of Havilah, which is languishing village, or Cush, sorry, the darkened ones. And everybody in Ethiopia and all that part of Africa are very, very dark. So it's just the south part of the Jordan mixing with the Nile. And then the one before it was going out, mixing into with the Indus River. So it's all coming out. All the rivers are coming out of Jerusalem, basically. And Eden was somewhere west of Jerusalem in the Mediterranean. That's what it seems like here. Um, so Gaihan comes from Gaia, meaning to burst forth. So Gaia is called Earth because Gaia, Earth, gave birth to things. That's how they see it. So that's why Gaia means to burst forth. Um, that's probably why gay used to mean happy, because you burst forth when you're happy. What they turned it into is not very good. GWH, means to burst forth, probably governor. like Gushers, the candy. Um, let's see. Birth signifying valleys associated with rivers. Guy isn't used in scripture, but its meaning is unknown. Guy, however, means valley and is used frequently. So if you frolicked around in the valley, I guess you'd be Guy. Very Guy thing to do. See, then they even made this the name the word gay and guy is the same. So they really try to confuse people. There are at least 7 named valleys mentioned in the Old Testament. The observation that every valley shall be exalted and every mountain made low ties into the principle of rebirth via which which every individual is king and high priest and utterly free. Yeah, so this river has to do with Gaia. So if it went down the Jordan means to descend down to Egypt, and it became the Nile, that's uh, they viewed the water as Isis. That's why she's light, and the nourishment of the dark ground. Oh no, she was the nourishment of the dark soil, and the water of the Nile was supposed to be Osiris. Sorry, but the river in a different perception wouldn't see. The Hebrew perception is the actual river that should be masculine, the water, right? But a different perception, a materialistic perception, views the actual soil as the river that it's flowing through. See? So if Gaia actually meant the bursting forth at the water, then it shows a lower dimensional thinking that they associate um, Isis with the soil, the dark soil, even though she's supposed to be about light. Shouldn't that be the water then? Mayhem is literally where you get mom. So you see how the perception gets corrupted. Um, so the next one here is Hadekel. That is, I think, the Euphrates or something. It means king frivolity. Keen frivolity. From Hadad to be sharp, keen, or swift, and Kalal to be light or frivolous. So that's basically like the internet. How fast and keen and swift the internet is, but then it makes a bunch of memes and nonsense things. And I think the Hideko is uh, Tigris. So it could be a reference to it flows east of Assyria. So that's like the Persians going to the Asiatics. So sharp, keen, or swift, that's the Asiatics, the Asiatic rivers. Kalal to be light or frivolous. Uh, the Japanese with their mangas and the animes and everything. And what is it? The Persians with mail. The Persians and Medes and Persians are the ones who implemented like a very, very complex mailing system. So they would be actually like the internet and stuff. The next river, I think, is the Euphrates. That would be the Babylonians. Sharp, keen, swift, and light or frivolous. The rich royalty were very light and frivolous and seen as very feminine, but their warrior side can win a lot of wars. They were the bear that has the 3 ribs in its mouth, but they're still light in the loafers, right? They're light and frivolous. They have all these parties all the time. They wear very feminine clothes and all that. Been talking too much today. Let's see. Um, so Hideko. ADQ. ADQ, like headquarters. Hedek means to prick, string, or separate. Hedek means briar. So headquarters is like a thorny. They have a razor wire and all that stuff. Um, Lamed, but there's a lamed in there. So protecting a, a scholar or testimony. This is all at what headquarters, a deck, and that's what the Persians and the Medes are really good at: headquarters, armies, defense. Dactyl denotes a date tree palm. Had meaning sharp. See, hey dad means keen or swift. Okay, Hedva meaning joy or gladness. And that means riddle. Oh, that's interesting. Persians are. That's interesting. That it must be the Persians and the Medes because Hida means riddle, and that's what happened with Belshazzar or Belshazzar. Is he was given the riddle Mene Mene Tekel Parson, and it means to separate. Yeah, all this has to do with the. Yeah, so this is the Persians. This is the river that the. What are they called? The river goes in. Maybe I don't know. It's a river that was by their headquarters. Kalal means light or swift. Sort of light or swift. Paneh, face or turning. Kalapane. Kalalpane. Coal means lightness or frivolity. Go to Kohl's to get clothes. Not useful clothes necessarily. That's not the emphasis. The emphasis is adorning yourself. Lightness, frivolity. Kalala means making a light. Kalai, Kalala, so Kiala, making a light. Uh, Yahweh showed David that Saul was going to come to Keilah, and the men of Keilah were going to give him up if he threatened them. They wouldn't fight for him. So Kelala, meaning making a light. It's interesting how David was enlightened to that fact when he was next to Keilah. Kikalan means disgrace. Somebody Kikalan sounds like something. Kala means to be lightly esteemed or dishonored. That could be Kala Panea, lightly esteemed face. Kalon means shame or dishonor of the face. That's probably California right there. SoCal. Anyway, surprisingly, hip this verb may also be used in the sense of roast or burn. Kali denotes parched grain, which was a common staple in biblical times. Oh yeah, so Kali is to roast the face. Well, they do a bunch of roasts in Hollywood. Got a blunt looking like a Cali palm tree. Police roll by. I got nothing on me. Anyway, para here is parat. See, but this can be. See, it shows how closely similar the Babylonians and Persians are, because both their rivers are very close to each other. Because Parat could be the Persian River and Hiddekel the Euphrates, but it says the Tigris. Tigris and the Euphrates mix with each other, though, I think. So maybe that's why they're so similar. But I think Parat, though, is. That's interesting. Their names sound switched, but the meanings are still there. So the Hiddekel is the Persians and the Medes, and the Parat is the Euphrates, which is the Babylonians. So this will describe the Babylonians more. It's funny. I think I was talking about the words that mean disgrace and shame and dishonor at the 45-minute mark. It's always something interesting at the 45-minute mark. So parat, this is the Euphrates, comes from parar, meaning to split, divide, and usually make more, expand, or multiply. That's Babel is where the Most High split, divided the languages, but it caused multiplication. Even though it's seen as a bad thing, Babel, it still caused more communication, right? Because now people are confused, they have to work harder to communicate with each other. Root belongs to extended family, also contains paras, meaning to break, Paris. Uh, to break through, basically, paras and paras. So the Babylonians, when they went to take over Jerusalem, they broke through the wall at the end. All right, so fracking. It was probably a river that was very, very deep because it was very fast. Break into or divide. It's probably, yeah, so this has to do with Tigris and the Euphrates are like together. So maybe it's actually the strength of the Euphrates that first caused the divide. Maybe it even tells the history of the rivers. That after the flood, probably the first river to come out of the ground again was the Euphrates. And then because of something that had to do with the Euphrates coming first, then it was split into two rivers. It could have been the people that became the Medes and the Persians did something to try to make the water go another way, and because of the power of the Euphrates, it split and became and or oh, that's probably what the Medes and Persians did is that they found out where the original river used to be before the flood after everything dried, and they're like, we have knowledge of this, let's try to revive it. It might insinuate that the Hiddekel River had to be revived because the Euphrates was super strong, and it was too strong because another river used to be there, so they actually had to like sort of archaeologically dig up the river and try to rejuvenate it. This is just theory based on what it says. So, but the Euphrates is the power of it. It'd be more. See, it's interesting when it talks about in the end the Euphrates will dry up to allow the kings of the east to come in easier with armies to get Israel. Not the Soviet Israel, but the people that they are um, trying to contain and eliminate. So break on through to the other side. Can't make this up. Break on through to the other side. That's the Euphrates. And he also sings Hollywood, Babylon. Parar, Pa'ar means to branch out or to glorify. That said, our word science comes from shizo, meaning to split or to divide. So Babylonians are scientific. But remember, it causes division, and there has to be a unity of spirit and matter. But it might show here that they try to split spirit and matter, and they're materialistic, and that's where this came from. Par meaning, or para meaning to bear fruit or be fruitful. Peri meaning fruit in its broadest sense. That's why they call Paris Peri. It's got two different meanings, but it's the same word though. Par means a young bull. If you're on par with somebody, it's like two young bulls that are equal. Para means young heifer. Let's see. Aleph is believed to denote an ox head. Aleph, so it's interesting. Para, like a paragraph, might supposed to be like a whole cow, a whole calf. It's not quite it's not quite big enough to be a cow. It's a paragraph. Let's see. Aleph, Beth, at stable bulls. Par is a word for wild donkey. Per means a lot. That's where you get Purim, cast a lot. So it even shows how they made their society. Pura denotes a wine press, and parur a cooking pot. So they probably had the best alcohol and wine and the best food. It's very Babylonian. Um, it's related to wild donkey, so you probably had a lot of democracy in Babylon, or some kind of democratic republic. Stable of bulls is probably how they did their government, like putting everybody in their own paddocks, and having universities. All these words that it's mentioning have to do with how it all comes from the river, power of the river. It's so much power, you could probably use its excess energy to do things, right? And they actually did use the power of the Euphrates, to go around the city of Babylon. So Abel, let me do Abel. I think I didn't do Abel. Yeah, I didn't do all these. I wonder why I didn't do all these. I'm gonna have to do this in 2 parts, or maybe even in 3 parts. That'd be funny if the 5 actually is a 5, 6, 7. Um, this is very, very interesting stuff. I can go forever on this. What am I doing? So Abel, or Habel, means to act emptily, or become vain. Some people say the Hubble Space Telescope doesn't exist. It's actually the Sophia project. It's a 747 with a telescope in it, infrared telescope. It gets the same quality pictures as the Hubble telescope. And it just so happens that Hubble means to act emptily or become vain. But see, then they're telling you it gets to see the entire heavens, though, right? Abel didn't get to live out his whole life, but he gets to see the heavens, right? It's a perception thing. Habel means to act emptily or become vain. Hebel means vapor, breath, or something very close to nothing. So it probably came out of proverbs that people made up about Abel, saying, be careful what you do, because you can have the best offerings, but then someone can just come and kill you. So Abel was a reminder of how vain life can be, or how you're not supposed to treat life vainly. That's why testimony speaks of better things than that of Abel, the blood of Messiah, because that actually causes something more than anybody can actually produce being alive, which is partly what Abel became a deity to Cain's line. That's where Tammuz comes from. Constantly weeping. Oh, he's the wheat that dies in the ground. Cain killed him in a field. So now Tammuz is the grain that dies and keeps dying over and over. Why? Because Cain keeps murdering. It's like killing Abel again and again. It's the psychology of it. Um, and so language could have even been um, affected to where people are like, "Oh, the story of Abel it troubles people to hear it." So then certain words have to do with troubling, and yeah, he experienced trouble. Um, so balal means to mix something with oil. Usually flour products, usually is ritualistic food preparation, so like an offering. It foreshadows Messiah, Abel being killed because of envy, not jealousy. Remember, envy is the bad one. Jealousy is actually good. Envy is the bad form of it, of the feeling. The emphasis of the verb lies on saturation or overflowing. So even the sacrificial system might even been a reflection of what happened to Abel. That's probably what needs to be people need to be reminded of in the sacrificial system, because they would put oil and stuff in the sacrifice and flour, and it has to do with Abel's name. Isn't that interesting? And it was a shadow of what? Messiah. It all ties in together. There's no denying it. Let's see. Verb lies on saturation and overflowing. See the mistaken thing that like the blood of somebody could actually fertilize the field. See how it's materialistic? And then the materialistic form of the church, like Catholicism, a bunch of thing, they emphasize like a physical blood thing. Oh, you're physically eating it. It's like, what are you talking about? And then they own Catholic Church was like first owning hospitals and stuff. So the first pharmacy was in the Vatican, pretty sure. Uh they when they invented X-rays, Catholic Church just claimed these are Eucharist miracles. We took an X-ray after they ate the bread and it turned into actual flesh. It's like, no, you're a liar and you're using technology to lie. Isn't that interesting? When X-rays first came out, they were actually being used to fake Eucharist miracles. They're just mocking. They can't get past the material, so that's why it's so confusing to them, and they mock it. Um, so Belil means the rich mix for animals to eat. Tebalul tells of an insoluble material that obstructs a person's eye. That's very interesting. Yabal is a flowing along or a course or a water course. Stream. Ubal means a stream or a river. To be jubilant. What makes you happy when water ships coming out of the ground? See, people who live in cities don't understand that. They don't have to go find water. You just get at the store. There's free fountains all over the place. Yabal means suppurating. What the heck? Discharging pus from a wound. Oof. Yibul denotes produce from the soil. Bul means produce or outgrowth. Yobul describes a carrier. See, Abel's name had producer in it. Cain was producing out of the ground, but Abel and what he did was producing spiritually. So his name mean to produce like you would a field, but he wasn't doing that. Well, he probably was doing it, but the gifts he gave were different. Cain probably was too addicted to eating that fat with the steak. He's like, you put the fat in your offering, bro. Don't do that. It tastes good. You know what I mean? Abel describes a drive of liquid or semi-liquid elements along some collective course. Probably because his story got told everywhere. They started making words based on that. Remember, these people were the first people living. So you gotta remember that their names, if some of the beginning ones, their names have things that seem kind of negative in it, it might have been attached later on to the word because he got killed. So you gotta keep that in mind. Um, Abel means morning, but also a stream or a brook. Yeah, so what happens when a stream dries up? You start mourning. When blood flows out of your body, you die and there's mourning. There's a plane flying around. Look, mommy, small plane up in the sky. So, with that said, I think I'll have to set this into another part. Maybe I'll just start at 6. Um, I don't know if I can get all the way to Noah though. Man, gotta mark where I leave off. Hmm. All right. So I'll see you guys in a bit. I'll just do this all day. I don't even care. It's Sabbath. Let's see. So I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna tell you about Seth. See, I kind of went ahead with the Cain and forgot that I had to go all the way back. But then it starts from Adam anyway, so that still works out. So let me start the music up here And I'll come back at 6. And then if I have to do another one, I'll have to eat and then do a later episode. I don't know. Unless people want to start a call, but who knows what will happen. Here's the submerged temple. That is your subconscious. Look deeply into the Aleph behind me. My face looks a little different because I don't have the lights on. I gotta remember to turn these lights on next time so I don't look pale like this.